All right, let's talk about Rivian. The company is at a really interesting crossroads right now. They just dropped their latest earnings call, and believe me, it is packed with clues about where they're headed. So we're going to break down how they did, and maybe more importantly, what their roadmap looks like for what they are calling a massive, pivotal year ahead. Let's dive in. An inflection point. That's the key phrase right there, from CEO RJ Scaringe himself. And it really just hangs over this entire conversation. I mean, that's a seriously bold claim, and it signals a huge shift is coming. So what on earth does he actually mean by that? Well, let's get into it. Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking back at what they call their foundational year and get into the Q4 numbers. Then we'll pivot to the future, talk about the R2 platform and their big ambitions in tech. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with their official guidance for the crucial year ahead. So before we can really look forward, we have to understand the groundwork that Rivian laid down this past year. It was all about building a solid base for future growth. And, a couple of key numbers really tell that story perfectly. First off, let's talk money, specifically the price of the trucks. Rivian actually managed to bump up the average selling price of their vehicles by nearly $5,500 compared to the year before. So how they do it? Well, pretty simple, really. They sold more of their premium, second-generation R1 models. Bottom line, they sold more expensive trucks. Now, at the exact same time, they were absolutely slashing their production costs. They figured out how to save an incredible $9,500 on every single vehicle they built. This was all thanks to smarter material sourcing and just getting more efficient in the factory. It's kind of the magic formula, right? Sell for more while building for less. And here's what happens when you do that. Higher prices plus lower costs? Well, it adds up to a massive milestone for the company, their first full year of positive gross profit. And you can't overstate this. This is huge. For a young EV company that has just been burning through cash to scale up, this is the first real sign that their business model can actually work and be profitable. Okay, so with that foundation in place, let's zoom in a little bit on the most recent quarter, Q4. How did they actually wrap up the year? The Q4 numbers, they show some really steady progress. Revenue was solid at about $1.3 billion, and they cranked out almost 11,000 vehicles. But I want you to look at that last number, adjusted EBITDA. Just think of it as a rough way to measure how profitable the core day-to-day business is, before stuff like interest and taxes. Now, yeah, it's still a loss, $465 million, but that's a big improvement. It shows they're burning way less cash just to keep the lights on. And that brings us to the future. See, everything we've talked about so far has been about the R1 platform. But the real story, the whole inflection point thing, is all about their next vehicle, the R2. The logic from the CEO is pretty straightforward. There's a giant hole in the car market right now. As he puts it, if you want a great new EV for under $50,000, your options are, well, they're surprisingly limited. And that's the exact gap that Rivian is aiming for with the R2. And don't think for a second this is going to be some watered-down budget version of their premium truck. No way. The R2 is launching with some serious specs. Dual-motor all-wheel drive, a crazy 600-plus horsepower, and over 300 miles of range. They're trying to deliver a really high-quality, high-performance experience, but at that much more accessible price. But here's the thing you have to get about Rivian. They don't really see themselves as just a car company. They see themselves as a tech company, and their vision for the future is all about software, AI, and autonomy. Their roadmap for self-driving has 3 pretty clear steps. First, they've already rolled out universal hands-free driving. Next up is what they call point-to-point navigation. You pop in an address, and the car just takes you there. And the end goal, the holy grail, is eyes-off capability, starting on highways, which is a huge step towards full self-driving. The brain behind all of this is something they call Rivian Unified Intelligence. It's basically this one single AI system that connects everything from the robots on the factory floor to the assistant in your car, all to create this totally seamless, personalized experience. This is really what they mean when they say they're a tech company. Okay, so let's bring it all together now. What does all this mean for the year ahead? Well, here's Rivian's official guidance for what they're calling their pivotal year of investment. So here's the plan, laid out in numbers. They're aiming to deliver up to 67,000 vehicles, which is great. But look at the spending. They're planning to burn through over $4 billion between their operating loss and their capital expenditures. Now, this is not a mistake. It's a very calculated bet. They're intentionally spending a massive amount of cash to get the R2 finalized, build out their new factory, and push their autonomy tech forward, all to make that inflection point a reality. And that really leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? Rivian is betting the house on the R2. They're spending aggressively to get ready for this launch. And honestly, everything, their financial future, their stock price, their whole place in the EV market, it really all hinges on this one vehicle. So will it deliver that inflection point they're banking on? The next year is going to be absolutely critical to watch.